Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm going to demonstrate another trade example today. And we've got a long trap here, and so I'm going to show you as you can see, we're coming off the. Let me explain to you what happened. I actually recorded this trade, and none of the volume worked out, so I'm redoing the volume on it. So some of this stuff may not match up, and this will allow me to cut it a little short too, without having to go through the whole thing. But anyway, we got a down sloping trend line. Well, I don't think we've got a down sloping trend line. This was the first time we really even broke above it. There's a couple of breaks there, and you can't really see my mouse over this thing for some reason, so I don't think it's showing up. But anyway, there's a failed second entry long, and it's really hard to demonstrate that, but there you could see me moving up and down the trend line there. I'm going to there's the trend line right down through there, and the trade hadn't triggered yet, but we've got those highs right there across where I showed you. And notice how each of the highs down that trend line are making lower highs than the previous one. That's a good sign. And what I'm looking for is a possible another leg similar to the leg way over there. Now the trade is triggered, and I got my automated strategy. I'm going to scalp out of 8 contracts once we get 2 points, or 1 point rather, and then I'm going to save 2 contracts and try to get a couple of extra points. This trade ends up stalling and bouncing before it makes the next move down, so I close the trade early. And so I probably won't show you this whole trade. I'll just explain it to you once we get the majority out of it. But the key is to get our, to get our 4 ticks, to scalp out with 4 ticks, and then of course again I'm scalping out on 8 contracts, so that's 32 ticks that we're guaranteed to make as long as we scalp out, and then I move the stop to break even or break even plus 1 or something of that nature. And this particular strategy, I have it set to go to break even plus 1. So the worst we would do on our runners would be to make 2 ticks on those 2 contracts, so, or $25. But in this particular case, I think I end up getting closing the runners at 1 point as well. So we end up making 10 points off of this trade, which is around $500. So. And I apologize that I don't know, I forgot to turn my microphone on when I was recording the first one, and in my haste to try to get the recorder going in time to catch the trade because it set up fairly quickly, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so I apologize. But we'll make the best of it. And unfortunately, you missed the part, and you probably noticed it yesterday. There were probably some inaudible points where it sounded like I was mumbling. And I'll be honest with you, it was because I was mumbling. I love to talk to myself when I'm trading, and you'll probably get a kick out of it. But when I'm in here, I'm talking to the charts, I'm talking to the traders, and if I'm short, I'm hollering go shorts, and if I'm long, I'm hollering go longs. And I'm a little bit animated when I speak as well. So I enjoy talking to the charts, and unfortunately, you'll miss that today, because it's not the same after the fact. But over here is the leg that I'm looking for. You just saw me over there looking at that big long leg down, and I'm hoping, I'm still expecting that we may get that leg down. I hadn't gone back to look at the chart yet to see if we have made it on down there. I was actually already done trading for the day, early again today, because I did catch some of that nice move down, and so I had I was done early, so I had a chance to demonstrate this trade. And we're looking to enter at the key entry point, and I wish I could point to you exactly what's going on this chart, but I can't. So I could show you why. Actually, even though I entered on this leg down, you could have entered on the previous leg down. If you see that doji up there at the very top, just to the right of my where we broke out and failed out the top of that little trading range. So that's its trap, and then because it's a new high. Then we're looking, the first move down is the first entry, and this is the second entry short. And what we end up doing is making two equal legs before it bounces. And that was not to be unexpected, but I was really hoping we'd break lower here and take on off of that next leg down, very similar to the other one over there to the left. It's actually two legs in that big leg move down, and that's what I was hoping for. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we ended up only making 10 points off this trade. But I say only 10 points. That's still a good trade, and I can't complain about it. So it is what it is. But one thing I will say that I did try to describe in the other one is, just because of the way I manage my trade, you don't hear me talk a lot about how I manage the trade, because the key is learning where to enter, really. And while it is important where you exit, you know, I believe it's up to the trader to find what works for them mentally and emotionally, because that is the most important part of trading. And for me, being a scalper and scalping out and looking for new entries, because I'm really good at picking out the key places to enter, I would rather take my profit and then look for another entry later, rather than letting the trade bounce back and take my profit away. So I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. But hopefully it does. But some people, their makeup and their mental aspect may not allow them to scalp, and they may rather enter a trade and hold on to the trade and try to get, you know, several points out of it. But I will say this, and I think this is important, and because if you can't pick out trades consistently and get 6 or 7, you really need 6 ticks to make a trade, because you know, you need the 1 tick to execute your stop order to enter you in the market, and then you're trying to get 4 ticks, and generally you're going to need that 5th tick to break through in order to fill the limit order on your 4 ticks. So that takes a 6 tick move. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If that doesn't make sense to you, then listen to this a couple of times and think about it, and it should. But if you can't get 6 ticks fairly consistently, how do you think you're ever going to make 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 points? So that's the point I try to make. And as you'll see here, the way this trade works out, even though it would have turned and gone lower again, if I hadn't have managed my trade here the way that I did, I would have seen all this money in my account, and then I would have seen it go against me by 3 or 4 ticks, and I would have been down a bunch. And sometimes it doesn't come back. Sometimes that's, you know, you get a reversal or whatever. You know, we weren't looking for a reversal here, but you never know when the market might reverse. So just remember that you know, that's the way I like to manage my trade. Doesn't mean you have to manage yours that way, but you know, I like to scalp out. I normally like to trade somewhere between 5 and 10 contracts, and I'll scalp out, you know, 3 to 5 of them, depending on how many I got on. Actually, I take that back, 3 to 8 of them. If I trade 10, a lot of times I'll scalp out 7 or 8 of them, and then I'll leave a couple, 2 or 3 for a runner in case I'm expecting a big runner. And I really thought we were going to catch a run. I thought I'd caught this runner here, but when that doji formed right beside the current candle forming, that was not a good sign. Sometimes prices will go on, but that was not a very good sign for this not bouncing. And there you see the trade field. My stop moves to break even +1. You can see that right there. I've got my highlight on it now. And so now I was hoping that this trade was going to rocket on down, similar to the big drop off to the left over there. But that doesn't happen, and this stalls right here and pulls back, which is what you would expect after coming out of all that congestion. And that's why I'm always telling people, don't trade breakouts. And the only reason I entered on this one where I did was because we were at the trend line and we had a trap, and so it made it a little bit different entering here. If this was at a low point, there's no way I'd be going short. If this congestion area, all that congestion was down there at the previous low, no way I would have gone short there. But because the congestion was happening at a high point, after a correction and near the trend line and near that double top that I'm pointing at right right to the left of where my arrow's at now, right in there. There's a double top all in there, and I'm not moving that. It's automatically doing that, so I can't pinpoint it precisely, but there's a double top there, and then you see that little doji just to the right of where I'm at right there. That was a failed break higher, and now we're going to end up with a failed break lower. And rather than continue this trade on, I'm going to tell you I tightened my stop right here and took another point on the other two contracts. And so I did let it pull back first, and then it started lower again and then bounced. I actually didn't get stopped out right here, and it turned lower and went lower again. And then I tightened my stop to a point, and because it broke lower, it breaks lower one more time and bounces once again and leaves, and we get a pretty strong bounce too. So I did end up only getting a point on the additional two runners as well. So rather than let it bounce and start to take back my money, I just took a single point profit on these two runners, and that was it. And I'm not going to let that play out because this lasts probably 20 more minutes here, and there's no sense in putting you through that. I'll just tell you what happened, and you can review your chart at this area, and you can see kind of how the price action played out. But we try to go higher here and can't, and then we make one more push lower, and it breaks a couple of ticks lower, but does not hit my limit order down at the low end, and then bounces, and it bounces pretty strongly. And so I took a point profit on these two runners, and so it made a total of 10 points on this trade, which is basically $500. So hopefully you enjoyed another trade example. And again, I was looking for a leg that looked very similar to the one to the far left over there of the screen, the big long. It's actually two legs involved in that big leg down, and I'm thinking we may be working on that now. I can't see the other chart because I got this one up and running, and but that's what I was looking for and hoping to catch, but I just didn't catch it here. And sometimes it's luck of the draw, and sometimes it's not. But actually, I'm going to see if I can flip over to that. Evidently I already closed it, but anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing another trade example of how I traded, and I can't really get my mouse to show on the chart. I'd show you some other things. I'd use this opportunity to show you a few other things, but it's kind of difficult, and I apologize that I didn't get the volume on it the first go around, and I made that mistake before, and in my haste to get the recording going, I just forgot to turn on my microphone, and missed it. And but again, this was a nice 10-point trade. We didn't catch a really big runner, but I did make a point off the runners as well before I closed it. And what happened was prices, I believe, broke the trend line and came back up and tested those highs again, and then turned down for another leg down. And I don't know how far prices have moved down because I can't see that other chart yet. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I hope you enjoyed this trade example. Thanks.